Welcome to the R.E.A.L. podcast, where hosts Shane Kilby and Duane Murphy dive deep into the world of real estate agent life. From overcoming hurdles to celebrating success, join us as we explore the journeys of industry veterans and rookies alike. Get ready for bi-weekly episodes packed with advice, feedback, and mentorship from the best in the business.
Welcome to R.E.A.L. Real Estate Agent Life. We have an incredible guest joining today, a leader in real estate space, an entrepreneur, and a passionate speaker dedicated to helping others succeed in both business and life, and a friend of ours that we keep running into. And Shane, who do we have today?
Well, it's funny you say that. It is you start making the right contacts when you are in the right places. So we have had the benefit of bumping into John more than one time, and so now we have become friends. And to introduce John to the rest of you guys out there that might be catching this episode via video or via audio here in the near future, this is John Tiller. He is the owner and broker of F4 Realty that is brokered by R.E.A.L. They are based out of Richmond, Virginia, and they serve the Richmond area. He has an extensive background in real estate, previously working as a broker and realtor at Mission Realty before founding the F4 Realty group there with R.E.A.L. brokerage in 2016. I do believe that's correct. Beyond real estate, though, this is where it gets interesting. John is also a motivational speaker and a leader at the Tiller Family Ministries, where he shares his journey and inspires others to overcome challenges and hurdles in life. He brings years of experience in real estate sales, brokerage leadership, and coaching and helping team leaders and entrepreneurs reach new heights in their business. Based out of the Richmond, Virginia area, John has strong roots in the real estate community and is passionate about service, faith, and leadership. He's followed by hundreds in the industry and has built a strong reputation for excellence, integrity, and results. John, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, fellas. I appreciate the invitation. And if you'd share that introduction with my wife, maybe she'll think more of me. That's awesome.
The same. My wife, when I start, my wife hands these around. She's like, "Are these the same people? Is that like Duane, from Wisconsin, Duane?" I said, "Yeah." It's like, I don't believe anything on that introduction there. So
The hype statement is always the best. The hype statement's always the best.
It's always the best. And if you ever want to be humbled, just come home.
There you go. What's the saying? Like, no one believes in your success until you get outside the local market that you serve.
That's right.
So John, you have some interesting stuff that I want to get into here momentarily, but real quick, just tell us and everyone else, how did you end up getting into real estate? So what's your backstory?
Yeah, so I was in banking. I got my first real job at 20 years old in banking, and they just, what I learned was if I showed up early, I did what I was asked, and I stayed late, that I would kind of quickly accelerate through the organization. I worked with a regional bank here based in Virginia. And in 7 years there, they had offered me a lot of opportunities. And in that 7th year, one of them was a job promotion, which was convenient because we were pregnant. My wife was pregnant with our first child, and we felt like staying home she wanted to stay home, but we needed her income. So I needed that promotion. So the downside was that they wanted me to move to Atlanta, which is a short flight away from here, and would relocate us completely. And so I thought, well, that's what we're going to do. So I called the only guy I knew in real estate, and I said, hey, I need to sell my house. And I actually signed a listing agreement with him. And he jokingly said, you ought to stay here and sell real estate instead of going to Atlanta. And I realized it was a commission job. I needed money. I couldn't work on a commission. Well, we ended up staying in Richmond, and because we didn't want to leave family, and I just really couldn't shake that idea of getting into real estate, though. And so I called that guy back, and later, about a year later, I got my real estate license, and I left banking. My last day of salaried employment was September of 2001. That was also my 28th birthday, maybe my 27th birthday. And of course, that was a day that for those of us who were there, there's a whole generation now who wasn't there, but for those of us who were there, we all remember it. And I remember it for you really kind of a trifecta there of my birthday and being the first day in being unemployed. And I've been unemployed ever since, like a lot of us entrepreneurs. And I was told to get into a great coaching program. And so I did. And I found a guy who was specializing in marketing. You guys might remember Craig Proctor from back in the day. He still does some stuff, but he was my first coach. And he said, if you, back in the early 2000s, you write me a giant check and you can go side by side with me and learn how I sell 600 homes a year working 20 hours a week while I coach the other 20 hours a week. And I said, that's the kind of guy I want to learn from. And I learned what I could and had the top producing team in our market by 2004. So within 3 years, just thanks to learning from others. You know, I never want to be the smartest guy in the room, which is good because that'd be hard for me to be the smartest guy in the room. And whenever I can learn from somebody else, like that's what I'm going to do and just try to learn and implement. And that's been a really effective strategy. So 2005, I became a broker owner. I decided I wanted to have the business model of teams where it was kind of like a sweatshop and where you hire new agents, make them work really hard, do all the hard kind of cold call prospecting that you don't want to do yourself, that they don't really want to do, but they learn it until they can go on their own. That was kind of the team model back there in the day. And I felt like there was maybe more that we could do for agents, training agents and building a career path for them. So I was a broker owner starting in 2005 with a franchise model for 10 years in that franchise model, and then independent for a short period of time after that. And I hired 120 agents with 3 offices at our peak, and then got into the virtual brokerage model. Partnered with a competitor and friend of mine in the same market, and we saw the virtual brokerage model about 8 years ago, and we thought that 1 + 1 could equal 10 if we got together to build it together. And that deal kind of ran its course. We're still really good friends, but we have built separate businesses now, both in the virtual brokerage model, 2 separate teams, but we both coach and we both kind of lead in that virtual brokerage model, some of this with my own team. And so we hit that reset button about a year ago. I also started coaching team leaders about a year ago, because the team that I grew about 7 years ago, I merged mine into my friends, and together we were doing about 200 transactions a year. We called it Family Served. And over the next few years, under what I was privileged to lead, we grew that to over 500 home sales a year here in our market. And we learned a lot of lessons along the way. We had a lot of people that would come to me asking questions. How do you do this? And so that was the spark behind starting a team leader coaching program. There's lots of great agent coaching programs out there. There's a handful of really good team leader coaching programs out there. What I've learned in like I said, in a lot of time in the industry, there's anybody I can learn from. The reason why coaching, I think, is expanding so fast, especially by people who've actually done what they're coaching. We can talk about the other at another time, but the people who have actually done what they're coaching, like, I want to be in the room with them. I want to learn from them. And there's always something to learn from guys like that.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me. We have this conversation all the time, and had this conversation earlier about having good mentorship and good coaching. And you made the statement, write the big check, right? And you can ride alongside me and see what I do and do what I coach you to do, and you'll have the success that I promise you. And it's funny today. I mean, I'm an instructor, pre-licensed, post-licensed, CEs, that sort of thing. And it's funny that once we know agents will get a license in 8 days or less. We discussed that on the previous episode that we shot earlier today. And we have some 5-week classes and 10-week classes and online classes. But it's like, once they get out of that class, like, it's a challenging hurdle to get them to understand that, like, you're in the game now. Like, you're not in the all-stars. You're not even been chosen to play on a championship team. Mm-hmm. You're an athlete, you're a ball player, but now you have to grow and develop. So with your background, your knowledge, how do you find the ability to overcome that obstacle? I guess that's a curiosity I have myself from just working with agents hand in hand. Is the length of time that I have is how to overcome that hurdle to get them to see that coaching that they need. And it's not free. Free coaching, the CEs, the stuff that we get from our board offices, not knocking it, is great, but let's face it, it's the bare minimum to get us leaked.
Good legal disclaimer there.
That's right. That's right.
I love our board stuff.
We love. Yeah, man, I think that's where the team model has changed dramatically, and where agents coming in the business especially need to realize that. So there's always been this option to go work with somebody who knows what they're doing. That's kind of intuitive, like people want to do that. I think what people don't realize is that there are still teams that are sweatshops where they're just going to kind of squeeze you and give you the proverbial phone book back when the phone numbers were in a book. For those of you who are 30 or less years old, the phone book is this thing that used to, anyway. So the team, today's model of a forward thinking team is really more like a teamerage. There's a few different guys in our industry who have kind of coined that term, or somebody coined it and a bunch of guys started using it.
I might have ripped it off once upon a time as well.
Yes. And so it's to have a place that's got a career path and to be able to plug in. I think the important thing that agents need to know, and the thing that a lot of the team leaders I coach, kind of the difference maker that when I say this out loud, their eyes open up and they're like, yeah. And that is, you have to get productive. As a team leader, you have to get your agents productive. As an agent, you have to get productive like in 100 days. Like it's not a long window. You don't have a year to get productive, because there are expenses, obviously, that come along with being in the business. And there are also just the opportunity cost. And nobody's going to be self-employed for what the average real estate agent makes. There's no sense in taking on that risk of being self-employed if you're not going to have a reward that's more than what you could get paid going to work a salaried job somewhere. And so getting in a team where they're doing big things and getting on board that ship and learning how to do big things, just being coachable, being humble, hungry, and smart. And smart meaning emotionally intelligent. Like, it's very hard to make it in this industry if you don't have some level of emotional intelligence. The rest of it is choice. Being humble and hungry, just be coachable and go after it and get productive quickly. And if you're not committed to getting productive quickly, real estate's not a business that you try. It's just not a business that you try. I think in the hundreds of agents that I've coached, maybe one of them has done all right starting part-time. And never fully committing. You can start part-time and then fully commit, but part-time is just, you have such a big learning curve. It's so tough. And so, getting a good coach and having a sense of urgency are the two things I would tell a new agent.
Yeah. On a couple of things that you had mentioned. One, when you mentioned your early years of coaching was with Craig Proctor. And right away, I'm like, and I mean this with all love when I say old, because all three of us are probably in the same category. But that old Proctor crowd.
Except John's hair looks better than both of ours. So
apparently some of us age backwards. It ain't me. But that old Proctor crowd, I mean, there's some of the best in the industry that, have built some mega organizations and gone on to coach others and train others, and that have come off that original Proctor tree. I was off branch of that. Right.
Awesome.
That National Association of Expert Advisors, J.K.
Right. That's where we met the first time, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Was that? I was trying to go through. I'm like, boy, was it National Association? Was it?
You were trying not to go that far back. Is what you were trying not to do.
I know we met across each other again after that. Jeff Cook event is like, wait, where's all the different crossings, right? But they were a offshoot of Proctor, I believe.
For sure.
I believe Jay Kidder had coached under him. Amazing stuff there, and you've been with a good crowd. The other thought that I had off of something you had mentioned is with your team lead training, and I think there's something really important for team leads, brokerage owners, inspiring team owners, team leads to take from that is don't be afraid, right, of helping someone get to where you are, right? I think in this industry, unfortunately, even though right? Teams are more of a thing. There's a lot of teams out there, unfortunately, even brokerages, where I don't know if they're truly helping you try to get to your highest level and, right, maybe help you open a team or help you run a team or teach you what it is you need to learn in order to lead people, right? I think too many people have a scarcity mindset when it comes to that. And you're filling that gap, that void a little bit of like, okay, here's probably what you're not getting taught at your brokerage, or here's maybe what you're not getting taught by your team lead, right? Sometimes because of a scarcity mindset of, boy, if I teach them everything and I teach them how to run a team and I teach them how to be successful and I teach them how to be a rainmaker and how to be profitable, then they don't need me anymore. They're just going to go out and do it on their own, rather than, boy, if I could teach someone all of that, pour that knowledge into them, imagine how strong we could be side by side, or versus, right, like, oh, I'm just training my next competitor.
Where I
So
find that scarcity mindset comes from John Maxwell, arguably the predominant leadership expert in the world. He calls it the law of the lid, right? And he says that you're only going to have people follow you who have leadership skills up to your ability to lead. And once they grow beyond that, if you don't grow your leadership lid, then they're going to go somewhere else where they can learn from somebody who has a higher leadership lid than you do. And if you're a team leader and you're not growing yourself as a leader, then that's exactly what's going to happen. It takes an abundance mindset and a sense of security in yourself that, hey, listen, if somebody goes on to do something bigger and greater than me, like, isn't that actually the objective? Where they can be like, that's a trophy on my mantle. That's not a threat to be squashed, right? And you can see that in people, that difference, like you said, Duane, between the abundance and scarcity mindset. You can see that pretty quickly, and those leaders are unfortunately just not going to go very far. And agents know that. So trust yourself. If you're on the other side of that equation looking for someone you can learn from, you'll be able to tell pretty quickly. And listen, we all have seasons of people. We can learn from good bosses and bad bosses, and good leaders and bad leaders, and good coaches and bad coaches. And so the only thing that's a failure is if you stay in that same cycle with that partnership with that person and don't move on once you've learned everything you can from them. And it's okay. We just have seasons that we hang out with each other, we learn from each other, and then sometimes we're just meant to go on to something else.
no, that's a great point. I know over the years, in the beginning, I was scared, right? Or just didn't want to fire my coach. Okay. Like there is a point sometimes, right? And that you do outgrow your coach, that you do pass your coach or your mentor or whatever it may be. And you can't be afraid to take that next step, to find that next one that's going to bring you to that next level.
That's right.
Because like you said, everyone's got a chapter. It might be, right, it might be a paragraph, might be an entire chapter in your story. You just never know how long they're going to be there.
One of the things I was most proud of on our last team, where we were selling 500 homes a year, we had 8 agents. We're in an average market, a $400,000 average sales price, very much follows national averages where we live. So not real high, not real low, just right in the middle, right average. And we had 8 agents who were taking home net income of north of $200,000 on the team, because we were investing in them. And they were getting recruited every day. And we told them, you're going to get recruiting calls every day from other people. But our job is to make the opportunity for you bigger every day so that you can live into that bigger opportunity. And as a team leader, sometimes that comes with co-investing. A lot of times it's investing in real estate. Okay, listen, you've reached the height of selling 50 or 75 or 100 homes a year or more, and you want to, what's the future plan? How do we get you additional streams of income as an agent, so that you can someday work your way off the transaction treadmill, have some supplemental income, and then and then build wealth. Like, how do you do that? And so, but as leaders, we got to be willing to invest. Talking about writing big checks, one of the biggest checks that I wrote was a couple years ago. I spent 2 years in a coaching program with an investing billionaire named Don Winter. He's under 40 years old and owns $4 billion of $4 billion of real estate, 28,000 doors. across the country, mainly across the Southeast. And he's, Inc. 5,000. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. But he had a coaching programs. When I said, hey, I got to be a better investor because I want to help my agents invest. I want to teach them how to invest. So I got to go learn. I got to raise my leadership lid, right? I got to raise my level of knowledge. How can I do that? Who's the best out there? And for me at the time, it was Don. And those were big checks to get in that room and worth every bit of it, worth absolutely every bit of it. And now we have a funding program for agents that we co-invest with them and we help them build wealth, and we set out with the expectation that if it's what they want, we want them to be a millionaire before they're done in their time with us. And that's what it's about, is helping people with lifestyle, improving their lifestyles and legacies. That's the mission of our team, is to elevate lifestyles and legacies.
That's awesome. So back to the mindset of abundance and scarcity. Like in leadership, when you get to a certain level of leadership, like that becomes common threads. That's common conversation.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that is, I guess the question comes to mind is can you really be the best leader or a leader in general if you stop learning, if you stop growing, if you stop raising that lid per se? Because I mean, it's just like expanding beyond the list and sell process, investing into your agents and giving it all away, which we're all, the John Cheplack mentality and mindset. Yeah. And of course, it's the same philosophy, even with Maxwell. I've got Maxwell books everywhere, is giving it all away. Yep. And it's a certain place in this, for me, it was a certain mile marker where I crossed over and I realized that no matter what you give away, it's still a very small percentage are going to put it into action. Yes. Going to take and run with it, right? So yeah. It's very interesting that you frame it like that. Let me ask you this. On our intro, the Tiller Family Ministries.
Yeah.
What's that about?
So it's about trying to bring good out of something not good. So I told you September 11th, 2001 was my first day full-time in real estate. On January 9th, 2003, I was out walking a piece of property. It was my largest sale yet. I'm still pretty new in real estate. It was 27 acres. It was prime for development. It was a homeowner who was selling, and he was interviewing other agents, and it was going to be tough, man. Like, this was the biggest listing appointment of my career. And so I go walk the edge of the 26 acres with him. And, back in those days, I had the Motorola StarTAC on my hip, and so it was awesome, man. Those were great days. And so it was the first one that was not a brick phone. It was great. So, but my phone was buzzing on my hip the whole time that we're walking this property. And I get in my vehicle and I start checking my messages after the appointment. It went well. I kind of pulled to the end of the driveway and I had 7 messages waiting for me. One of them was my buddy just asking, hey man, you want to go to lunch? The other 6 were ones that changed my life and my family's life really forever. The first one was my wife saying that Eli, our 3-year-old son, has been hurt. Meet us at the local hospital. And she didn't really describe it, but there was fear in her voice. The next message was another message from her with a lot more fear. John, come quick now. I need you to come home right now. Eli's hurt. And he was 3 years old at the time, our only child, still our only child to this day. And I got another message from a Virginia State Police special agent who said, John, this is Special Agent Adams from the state police, and your wife and her mother are with me. Your son has fallen from a window at your house, and he's in critical condition. He's being med-flighted to the university hospital. They've changed route. He's not going to the local hospital. He's being med-flighted to the university hospital. Meet us there. And then the next call was from the chap at the hospital. And she said, John, I need you to meet me at this specific location when you get to the hospital. I want you to come see me first. Don't talk to anybody else. And all I knew was that my son's life was on the line. I thought that chaplains only called you when your loved one had already died. And so I didn't know what to think. I kind of squealed out of that appointment. It was about 30-minute drive to the hospital, to the university hospital. There's clearly nothing I could do anymore. These calls all came in. I checked the messages later. Clearly nothing I could do but go meet at the hospital. And what I had found was that morning I kissed my wife and my son, and I prayed for him. That's what I did when I left them in the morning. And it turns out he had taken a little play school chair that he shouldn't have been able to drug it across the room and up to a window that he shouldn't have been able to climb up to, and pushed out a screen that he shouldn't have been able to push out, and fell 13 feet head first onto the asphalt driveway there at our house. And my wife just heard this silence that kind of mama knows, especially that, something's really wrong. And so she called his name and didn't hear a response, went and saw him, looked out the window. The room was empty, looked out the window, saw him laying lifeless, bleeding from the head on the asphalt driveway there. So, she called 911 and they med flighted him, and I met him there. And the doctors had stabilized him, but they said, listen, we've done all we can do. He's got pressure, intracranial pressure from a brain contusion, and crushed his skull when he landed. And we've drilled a hole to relieve the pressure, and all we can do now is watch and pray. And so for the next 3 weeks, we didn't know if he was gonna live. Lots and lots of stories, both in that time and after that. The great news is he did live. He is now 25 years old, and he still lives with us. He's got physical and intellectual disabilities from that accident. We've learned lots of lessons along the way. There's nothing broken spiritually about that kid, though. He is, and I still call him a kid because that's what we do. No matter how old they are, they're always gonna be our kids. And he's got a level of joy in him that most people just don't have, and he just has it kind of as his default. And faith has always been super important to us. We don't know how we would have gotten through that without in our lives, without a strong faith. Most marriages break up when you have an accident like that, or when you're facing the death of a child, and our marriage is stronger. We've been married 31 years now. And so a lot of lessons learned in marriage, and a lot of lessons learned in helping him to get well. So fast forward from that 2003 to 2011, and we had been through, I know on this podcast, you guys talk a lot about, hey, everybody talks about their success. They don't talk about the hard times. Well, I'm happy to talk about the hard times with you also. If you'll notice, my career's been 25 years, and it was just a few years ago that I had all this success. Well, there's a reason for that, right? Because there was 20 years before that was brutal, man. And the business has been great to us for sure, but you learn lessons along the way. And then hopefully, at some point you kind of pick them up. One of the reasons, though, that it was 20 years, the business has certainly been good to us. And in 2008, Warren Buffett says that he was quoted at that time. He still says it. He says, when the tide goes out, you find out who's swimming naked, right? And that was me and a lot of my real estate buddies. We were really wealthy, or at least we're making high incomes before 2008, and then we just kind of lost it all. And so we were rebuilding, and in 2011, everything was good, man. Like it was good. We're rebuilding everything that kind of went south in the 2008 recession, and we didn't have a lot of savings because we had blown all of that in 2008, and it was good. Like life was good, and long story short, my wife and I felt called to leave real estate. And pursue the ministry of sharing our story and sharing our son with people. And so for 2 years, I actually took off of real estate, 2011 to 2013. And we traveled the country and shared our story, generally in churches, in Christian conferences, also some chapel services at business conferences, and just shared our story and what had happened, and what we attribute to God's grace in our life, and what he did for our son. And tried to really answer some of the hard questions that people have about faith, like why do bad things happen to innocent children, and why would a good God allow such bad things to happen, and how do you keep a marriage together through stuff like that? And so ever since then, so in 2013, we had shared with tens of thousands of people, never a dry eye in the house. And but we realized that Eli likes food with his meals, as Brian Buffini likes to say. And so I went back to real estate. And what I realized when I went back to real estate is every day that I was doing real estate full time, I missed ministry. And every day I was doing ministry, full time, I missed real estate. And so we founded this nonprofit during that time to really just share the story and inspire folks, maybe answer some of the hard questions about life and about faith. And it's been a gift to be able to do that. And so we kind of do that on the side now. My wife and I will speak at marriage conferences, and we do some other things also that are related to that.
Strong testimony. I did not know the insight of that when I asked that question. I just knew that had some type of significant ties. So I'm glad that you shared that. That's very, very powerful. And it means a lot. It means a lot.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah. You see, I still have, and it's not that type of podcast, but I mean, I have friends, real close friends. So I don't judge, I have real close friends that the questions you just mentioned are the questions. They're good people. They're good people. Their questions in faith are those questions. Why do those things happen to innocent children?
Yeah.
And those are questions that I'm not qualified to answer.
Yeah.
But every time, and they're older hunting buddies, what they are.
Sure. Yeah.
When something happens to them, we just don't have those type of, influential people in our lives. Every time we spend some seasons together, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? You doing any more praying here lately? Or, and it's like, nope, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go back to the woods. Let's get off that subject, because it's always, when we come to that conversation, it's always looks me directly in the face and goes, well, answer this. I'm like, I can get you with the right people. They can answer that. I'm not qualified to explain that in great detail, but being at the age that you are, I wish that you would connect with some of these people and have those deep conversations for that reason.
Well, I appreciate that, man. There are, obviously it's a gift. I know you would tell me that it's a gift not to have been through. I don't know your story, your full story. I don't know that you haven't been through suffering, but there's a lot of people who haven't. And that's good. That's not, it's not like, hey, this is a cool club, the cool kids club to be in. And I never wanted to be the guy who became the expert on suffering, but it turns out that especially when you're grounded in faith, you can actually turn something that was meant for evil, meant for bad, and turn that into something good. And that's been a gift to us. And it's not that, dude, I would give my right arm, I'd give my life for my son to be completely restored, just like you would for any of your kids. Mm-hmm. And but that's also not the way that it works.
That is true. So true.
Yeah, God is picked, you and Eli, right, your family, for a different path, and that path is helping many others, along the way, and you're guiding them through that. So that's pretty amazing. I know I've watched your story and been a little in tune with it more for quite a few years. I know one of the happy moments that you had shared publicly, which still I remember and remember seeing, and I think we even talked about a little bit, is when you had taken the home that you raised, you raised Eli in, and I think it was your first home that you had purchased, and not too long ago, right? In the last couple of years, last 2 years or so, when you sold it. It's been 3 now.
Yeah. So the home we're in now has just been a year. Yeah.
Okay, year. And I remember the emotions you were sharing with changing, closing that chapter, right, and closing that page and moving on to the next one, but being able to move into a home that was
built for the long term,
be provided, right, through for you helping others, and everything that you do, right, is the reason why you're able to have the home that you're in today, which completely meets, right, the family needs so much more. I know with, like, you were talking, like, right, countertops that are the right height and doorways that are wide enough, and all these things that you were just overwhelmed with, on the fact that you're able to provide that for your family, and and just make it fit better, and that it's still just even reminiscing on that a little bit. I'm living, second party. It was emotional to watch.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah. When he, before he turned 18, every day it was about, how can we get him better? Like, how can we get him better tomorrow than he was yesterday, right? Or better today than he was yesterday. And he learned a lot of discipline through that. We spent tens of thousands of dollars a year on uninsured alternative treatments to just get him better. And then, there were different times, not even before he turned 18, when we were trying to balance how do you live life with disability versus just trying to get better from that disability? And how do you balance? That's a balancing act, certainly as a parent. But then when he turns 18, it's like, okay, oh wow, he's an adult now. We got to make a long-term plan. And so what real estate has done for me is to be able to make him a long-term plan. Before he got hurt, I subscribed to the idea that I should die broke, right? Like spend all the money. I don't need to, just die broke. But now it's important to build a trust fund for him. And the first step in that was to build a accessible home that we all can live in, that he has his own area. He calls it the West Wing for Beauty and the Beast. The Beast has the castle, and in the West Wing is where he goes and nobody else is allowed to go. So it's kind of like his man cave, but it's completely accessible for him. And then the rest of the house is built for all of us. It's been a big gift. And I know all three of us and everybody, that all of our friends who have had any level of success in real estate, it's one of those businesses that earns more than we deserve. Honestly, it just earns more than we deserve. And there are people who work just as hard as us who are in different industries. But part of that is making sure that we pay it forward, right? And thanks, Duane. Thanks for that.
And I think they're so right. It's still all so related to real estate in success and mindset and just overcoming hurdles, because we're all going to have them. Everyone has some, right? And some are more severe, right? Maybe can be measured different, but unless you're in that person's shoes, right? Their major crisis or their major hurdle is theirs, right?
That's right.
And that might be a 10 on their scale. Like
That's
you might look at it and go
right.
that's a 2. Really? You're calling that a 10? Like, on my scale, that's a 2, right?
Yeah, I think what we've learned is that my scale matters to me. Like, I don't have a bad day in real estate anymore. Ever since my son got hurt, I can come home and he's alive. And so try to compete with that, right? Like you can't, there's no bad days in real estate. Certainly there are worse days than others. And there are plenty of days where I'm ready to go home and put real estate aside. For sure. There are many and many of those, but there's nothing that rocks me in the real estate world because I get to come home to my son being alive. But on the flip side of that scale, while, you may think that you feeling depressed today is no big deal because on my scale, well, here's what I can tell you. We've met a lot of people who have also been through suffering, and suffering that's worse than ours. Some of the ones that I'm most in awe of are the parents who have lost their children. Like their children, they've been through suffering because their children died. And I can't fathom that. I faced it for sure, but I never lived it. And so I think just to have compassion about what you said, Duane, which is we don't know what each other is going through, but to understand what my story has done for us is it's helped break down kind of barriers and help people become a little bit vulnerable with us and share what they're going through. And let me tell you, everybody's going through something. Everybody is going through something. And to have just a little bit of compassion toward humans, that's why we're here. Like, that's why we're here. And there's so little of that, especially in the competitive world of real estate.
Well, there's a couple of things that I see in this story, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this chapter of your life has probably contributed to you becoming a better leader, becoming a better mentor, becoming a better coach. And that all ties back into coaching and helping team leaders.
100%.
Because it's, agents need coaching and guidance and mentoring, but who's going to deliver that? Typically that's going to be a team leader of some sort. So I can see this tying back into probably contributing to make you such a great leader and coach and mentor to those people through such a trying situation. You didn't, like you said, you didn't have a choice. And also this is when I always struggle with, because I see so many talented agents in our industry that produce so little. And it's not about the money. It's the potential. And I see now, I know your story, and I apologize. I didn't know that deep of the story with you. Now I'm very grateful for that, very humbled by that. Like your story, and then like John's story with Lexi and her open heart surgeries. And it's like, if you guys wouldn't have been going all in with that abundance mindset and that, lead with value thought process and maxing out most of the world looks at maxing out as a negative, like trying to have all the cars and trying to have all the things. And it's just all about money. But I look at you two guys and think how much different it would be if you didn't go as hard as you go and have the additional means to be able to provide the additional, like you said, uncovered medical expenses, and outside the box treatments to better the lives of your children, right? And make the positive impacts on the people that you make. So it's not always about maxing out to see how big you can make the bank accounts. It's about being able to help other people. So I caught a little grief here recently, because one of my posts was taken in a negative light. It was in a group I didn't have a good feeling in that group, and I know better next time. However, I caught a little slack because of it was a post about choose wisely who you're sitting at the table with. You don't talk about people, talk about solutions and helping others, and and faith and even income. And so I got a little slack from the income. Income doesn't belong there with faith. And I'm like, well, I tithe, and the better off I am, the more I can help others. And then it was, it was taken in a negative light. Wasn't meant to be in a negative light, but like I said, that was a group I wasn't completely familiar with, and I didn't retract it. Wasn't going to retract it. I used that opportunity to explain my position, and whether they took it that way or not. It's always something I'm trying to transfer to individuals who they come through your life, they come through your team or your group, your operation, and you just know, you're like, man, they're special. They're special. They can go a long way, do big things, and they don't always reach those potentials. That's and right. So I just I say that to say this, that I see now how the dots connect to make you to have contributed to you being such a great influencer to the people around you. And I'm just humbled by your story, and I'm glad that you shared it. I really am.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I think, a few things, just kind of dovetailing on a few things that you said. Money's just a tool, right? It's just a metric, and it's also a magnifier, right? We all know that. It's if I was a bad dude and I got lots of money, I'm still a bad dude. I'm just magnified what the things that I care about. And if I'm trying to be a good dude, which, that's also impossible to be all the time, then money's going to magnify that. And that's my hope, is that I would use my influence and my income to help other people. But I don't need, it's not a direct correlation. I don't need money to be who I am, right? I need money's like oxygen. Like, I need it to pay the bills, and Eli needs somebody to make some money, and I've been given an opportunity to be able to do that, and so that's great. I know lots of parents who are in my same situation who probably don't have the income potential that real estate gives all of us, and I don't know why that is, man. I don't know. I just consider it a gift that's to be stewarded well, right? To be managed well, and that's what the money's about. Money's about making a difference in people's lives. And listen, if you don't want the things that money can buy, that's great. Go make a lot of money so that you can go give it away. Like, there's a famous pastor who was famous for reverse tithing, right? He's like, I'm gonna give away 90% of what I make. And you can do that too, whether it's a faith-based thing or not. But I'm a big believer that money can solve a lot of problems. There are definitely problems it can't solve, but it sure does make things easier. And to have the right perspective that the money, though, I have to be in control of the money, not the other way around.
That's it.
There's always so many misconceptions around it, and I'm not going to try to quote. I'll probably get it wrong, right? But it's not to get into politics, right? But guns aren't evil, right? It's the people using them, right? It's the same way with money, right? There's a lot of misconceptions that money is evil.
Sure.
Money is not evil, right? It's
Yep.
What are you doing with that money, right? How are you impacting others? How are you
That's right.
helping others, right? What are you doing with it? Money in itself is not,
like John said,
not evil. Right?
You're good or bad with or without money. Money just amplifies it.
And not to get too deep into faith, but the truth is we're all bad. Like, we're all bad. Mm-hmm. And we all have some good and we have some bad. And hopefully my goal is to wake up every day and check my heart and make sure that I'm doing the things I'm doing and using the money that I'm using for good. And I promise you that when I take an inventory of that, it is not always a green light. sometimes there's a red light there and things that I got to change, right? But I think if we use it as a reflective tool, I think it can make us better for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, John, let's go a different direction. Let me ask you this. So we all have that special person or that book or that quote or that mentor or that movie that has made a great impact on our life. It has influenced us in the direction and the paths that we've taken to find success and overcome hurdles and obstacles in that path. Who would you say, or what would you say, has been your greatest influence in life and business to this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's the family answer that says, my wife, and which is very true. There's no one more important in my life than my wife. I think a lot of people who don't invest, that is a product of both of us investing in that relationship. It was not naturally easy. No marriage is naturally easy. But I'm going to skip that answer because that's kind of the pie in the sky answer. I'm also going to skip the Jesus answer as a person of faith because that's also kind of a churchy answer, and it's true, right? But beyond those two things in my life, probably without a doubt, the most influential person in my leadership we've already talked about is John Maxwell. And I've never coached personally with him. I've had a privilege of meeting him a few times because I've been trying to get in the room for decades now with people who I can learn from. And John has written over 70 books on leadership, and they're all just amazing. And that's for me, that's what made him my mentor, is I can deep dive in these books. And my favorite quote of his is that everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And I learned that when I started my team in the early 2000s. And ever since then, I've tried to become a better leader. And so I grabbed stuff on leadership as much as I can find. And the truth is that there's still, even after him and many others, I've associated myself and mentored under lots of other great leaders. I do believe that when the leader gets better, everybody gets better. I think that despite how true that is, for some reason, there's still a leadership vacuum in our society. Like leaders are in Maxwell's newest book is called High Road Leadership. He makes the case that there's high road leaders, low road leaders, and middle road leaders, right? And the truth is that there are very few high road leaders. There's very few high capacity, leadership focused, level 5 leaders, top level leaders. And I think a lot of that has to do because leaders, to be a great leader, leaders go last. You focus on yourself last. You focus on others first. And that's not naturally how we're wired. So we have to choose to lead ourselves differently to be great leaders. So anything that I can pick up that Maxwell has written, I get my hands on, and I'll usually put together a group. I have a leadership group getting together right now on Friday mornings, and we're studying that study. And so that allows me to deep dive and also invest in others. And when I do those groups, I'll invite a group of people I can learn from, and then a group of people that I feel like I want to invest into. And Maxwell taught me most everything I know about leadership.
It's interesting that is the same philosophy for all great leaders. John, and so to compare that, John Maxwell and Jocko Willink, right? They both have the same philosophy.
Yep.
Jocko's philosophy is there are no bad teams.
Yep.
There's only bad leaders.
Yep.
Right? There's only bad leaders. So, and that's the same, even though John doesn't put it exactly like that, it's basically saying the same philosophy.
That's right.
On leadership, right?
That's right.
Put others first, right? And what's the greatest leader is the greatest servant to their people, their followers, right? So, yeah, very, very impactful, very impactful.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut off Shane there. Yeah. In order to be respectful of your time, I do have we have probably one more question or a couple more, but in order to try to be respectful of your time, I know we're running a little bit long, but the story, like your story, had to be shared, right? We had to have it, right? So I have no regrets on that at all, right? I'm just very glad that you shared it and very fortunate to know you.
No, I'm very thankful, very humble. Yeah. I will go give my child another hug after this call. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with everything that we've talked about and with all the experience and the journey that you've had thus far, if you were to talk to either your younger self or maybe someone that's new in this journey or right getting started in real estate, right headed down this path, what is something that you wish someone would have told you that you would share with others?
Yeah, I think probably the three things are: get in the room, do the work, and give it away. Get in the room, meaning just like get in the room with people who are better, stronger, smarter, faster than you. That thing, I don't really, that must have been modeled for me somewhere. I don't know why that was kind of natural for me getting into it, but it was the number one thing I did for the younger me, was to get in the room with other people. All the opportunities come that way when you get in the room and associate yourself with other people. I think one of the things though that's way underrated is doing the work. There is no way around the work. The way I'm wired, I love the phrase "work smarter, not harder." And then guys who work harder always outperform me, always, right? So it's like I would rather somebody, Will Smith said, hey, listen, you might be smarter and faster than me, right? But you're not. If we're on a race on the treadmill, I will either outlast you or I will be dead. One of the two.
Yes.
And I know people like that. You know a lot of people like that. I think you guys are some of those guys who will outlast anyone. Like, and that brings success. So doing the work. How about we work hard and smart? And so that's number two. And then just giving it away. We talked about earlier, and I think it's really important to talk about, what that means, giving it away, and this philosophy that, Cheplack talks about, coming from a point of contribution. And I have lots of other folks, and this is really kind of come into focus for me as I've gotten older and more seasoned in the real estate business. There's a thing that I do that monetizes my knowledge, right? And I have a few things now that I'm older, you guys are, we have maybe a few things that monetize our knowledge, right? Things that we charge money for. But outside of the thing that we charge money for, it's all free. Like, it's all free, all of it. And whenever I can, if somebody's willing to, it doesn't matter who they are. Like, I don't turn down appointments, and I don't turn down coaching calls. Now, it might be 2 or 3 or 4 weeks before I'll take somebody who is not in my, in my commitment circle, if you will, somebody I'm committed to coach. It might take a while to get one-on-one, but everything I'm trying to do in life now is give it away. And I think in the very beginning, I had a mentor who, when we were in banking, it was really privileged to be coached by executives there. And we were always giving away everything but personal information and client information. We would literally be an open book. And back then in the banking world, that was completely innovative. Nobody did that. And we were at our regional bank. Capital One is headquartered here in Richmond. And we would talk to our peers, competitors at Capital One, and we'd be like, basically, we'll show you everything we've got. And we'd love it if you don't mind sharing, and if you don't want to share, it's okay. But here's what we have. So anyway, giving it away and adding value, coming from a point of contribution. John Maxwell calls it adding value. If we just spend our lives, we wake up every day and look for a way that we can add value to others, then we're gonna be okay.
That's good. What's very, very unique is we asked that question, I don't know, 30, 40 times thus far on this podcast. And I would probably say 9 out of 10 times that is in that conversation is giving it away in that order, giving it away, being in those rooms,
Yes.
and then doing the work. It's like, if we were to make a cookbook on how to be successful in life and business, and especially real estate, it would be get in the rooms, give it away, do the work. Right. And there would be few things left to be put in that recipe, because it's always the same thing. If you're in the right places, the people above you are going to give it all away to you. Right. So in the room, someone gave it to you. There's only one thing left: to go put it in action. So we're not done. We're going to have a John Tiller part 2, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a very, very enlightening call, a podcast, and in due respect for John's time and for the rest of you guys and gals out there in podcast land. John, how could anyone else out there, how could they connect with you, follow you, get more insight from you? What's the easiest way to make contact?
Something about find you in the telephone book. Like,
yeah, right. There's this thing called
the
a telephone book, right? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you can just find me, John Tiller Real Estate. You can find me anywhere online, and we do a podcast called the Mega Team Mastermind. That's again from a point of contribution where we interview $100 million and above team leaders and the coaches and people that support them, and that you don't have to be at $100 million yet, but you can certainly learn something in that podcast. It's the Mega Team Mastermind podcast that we have out there, and you can find me on social and connect with me that way anytime.
And we'll be sure to put all your information into the show notes and get those uploaded to the podcast as well. In the meantime, everyone out there in podcast land, if you've taken away some value from this episode, please do us a huge favor, like and subscribe. And as always, give us a good thumbs up and a good review on this podcast. It helps with the algorithms. And in the meantime, stay tuned, and we will bring you some more fantastic content from great guests just like John, and we will have a John Tiller part 2, ladies and gentlemen, so just stay tuned. And with that, I'll put a bow on it, guys. It was great connecting with you. Again, thanks for taking the opportunity out of your busy schedule, and we will see you all again real soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the R.E.A.L. podcast. Don't forget to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for more exclusive content. Keep striving for success, and we'll see you in the next episode.